episode 3 of the Satsuma diaries. So ultimately want to be able to get a twin seat on it of some description, so my wife can go on the back when we go out in the camper van and we can chuck it on a rack on the back. However, the exhaust was in the way of where the pillion foot peg should be, and also whoever had the bike last, whoever made the bike how it is now, has ground off the old pillion footrests and painted over it, powder coated, whatever it is. So I'm gonna have to weld some new brackets on. But yeah, the exhaust was in the way, and after taking all the Kevlar heat proof wrap, whatever it was, off the exhaust, I've discovered it's an absolute monstrosity of an exhaust. It's just some like random pipe that's been hammered flat to get it through this gap here between the brake lever and the foot peg, well, between the foot pegs and the engine. But if you look at the execution, it's absolutely shocking. I mean, fair play for having a go and wrapping it up in Kevlar so you can't see any of it, but yeah, it's a nasty piece of steel tubing that isn't any good, and it looks terrible, and it's in the way. So yeah, all the more reason to not use this exhaust. And to be honest, it didn't sound great anyway. So I managed to find one on eBay, an original exhaust that's in a bit of a rusty bad condition, but it's the only one on eBay at the minute, so I've had to buy it, 26 quid. So I'm gonna have to try and clean it up and, you know, maybe have a little go at modifying a standard exhaust so it doesn't sound like a sewing machine when it's running, but also isn't too loud. And then in my garage I found some pillion foot pegs off the old racing moped that we had for the Moped Mayhem race that we did a few years ago. So I'm going to cut these brackets off and weld them on here, all being well. And then at least I'll be able to have a passenger on. The seat is going to throw up a bit more of an issue, I think, though, because whoever's knocked it up has cut too much off the back for me to use a standard seat. I think the standard seat would end up coming back further than this end of the bike, so I'm going to extend the back out, which I don't really want to do because of the orange paint, or I'm going to make some kind of rack that goes on the back that can be used as a rack, or have a seat that like a removable seat that bolts onto it, potentially. Could be an option, don't know. Either way, with no foot pegs, it's going to be no good. So first job I'm going to do is the foot pegs. So I've separated the foot pegs from the brackets that they were attached to, and looking on some Google images, looks like this is meant to be in line with the brake reactor bar, rear brake reactor bar. So I've sanded the paint off. It's revealed this boss that's got that stud in it. So what I'm going to have to do, because I've only got the TIG welder and it's very thin metal and I'm probably not that good at filling up, we get big caps with it, because it's such thin metal, I'm going to put this little plate on that I've made first, weld that onto the swing arm, and then weld the foot peg onto the plate. I think that's just going to be a bit easier for me to weld up. Not sure if I need to really weld that back to the swing arm and sand it back again, or whether that's just meant to be floating in there or not. Not sure. Got one tacked on now and happy with the position. I think I'm about to run out of gas, so I might just be able to get this one on, and then I have to go and find my local gas supply and see if he's about. Getting the bottle refilled. Well, I've been and got my gas bottle refilled, and I've brought the bike into the garage because it was getting a little bit windy outside, so now I can get this fully welded on. It's tacked on and I'm happy with the placement, so I used a silicone bronze filler to weld around the plate just because it melts into gaps a little bit easier and it's a bit more forgiving, and then I've used a 309 stainless to weld the foot peg to the plate only because that's all I've got. I've got stainless or silicone bronze, so there we go, happy with that. Just need to get some black paint now and do the other side. There we go then. Fairly short episode this time because I haven't got the exhaust to put on, but yeah, foot pegs are done. Not too shabby. Need to get some black paint. Sort that out. This side is a bit more involved than I thought it was going to be with the round plate that needed to be put on, flat plate that needed to be put on. But yeah, there we go, making progress. A couple more things I've noticed. This back wheel, I suspected that it was spoked wrong, and yeah, it definitely is. This side, all the spokes are on the inside of the hub, whereas it should be same as that, one inside, one outside. I've actually had a spoke snap. Maybe it was already snapped, don't know, but it's definitely snapped now. And you can see that it's not really sat in that hole properly because there's another spoke behind it pushing on it weird. So I'm going to get a new spoke kit and see if my local mountain bike shop that normally does me mountain bike wheels will re-spoke it for me, because yeah, they just don't look right, and one of them snapped. So suspicion is that it's definitely not spoked up right, laced up right. The front wheel was leaning to one side, and I thought it was because of the spokes. I've managed to centralise it at the top just by fiddling with the spokes. However, I think it is actually still leaning, you know, it's not actually plumb. After doing a bit of Facebook searching on the group, there's quite a lot of people saying they've got the same issue. And I reckon it's these cheap aftermarket shock absorbers, because you can't get genuine ones anymore. Maybe ever so slightly different lengths. Although, you know, wouldn't have thought that would have made too much difference when the spindle's in, holding it all square. But yeah, probably is that. So yeah, don't know what really to do about that. It's not a massive issue because not really you're not really ever going fast enough to probably notice the handling difference. But don't know, something to look into in the future. Want to try and get the back end sorted out first, get the back seat on, get the exhaust sorted, get these foot pegs painted. But yeah, good progress. See you on the next episode.